2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Live from the Play Show, yet not overly ostentatious studios of the Infinity Sports Network here in beautiful New York City, sitting on top of the 10th floor of 345 Hudson Street. Welcome on in to what is a Tuesday edition of the Zach Gelb Show across all the great local Infinity Sports Network affiliates, Sirius XM, Channel 158, the free Odyssey app, and of course, streaming live on YouTube. 855-212-4227 is the number to jump on in. 855-212-4227. You could always get at me on Instagram, where I'm straight flexing, or via the good old cesspool of Twitter X, at Zach Gelb, that's ZACHGELB. Coming up 60 minutes from now at the top of the hour, former NFL linebacker, six-time Pro Bowler, legend with the Green Bay Packers and also the USC Trojans, Clay Matthews is going to stop by. I'm very confused, though, to start this show today. Very confused. I walked into work today, and I'm in the lobby, and there's a very nice lady downstairs who always greets you, and she's a part of the security team. And she goes, "Hello, sir. Happy Friday." And I go, "Happy Friday?" I go, "What the heck did I do last night where I missed Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of this week, and now we're here at Friday?" So then I said, I thought she was like joking. So I said to her, "You mean Tuesday? I wish it was Friday." She goes, "Did I say happy Friday to you?" And I go, "Yeah." She goes, "I apologize, sir." I'm like, no worries. But that's really not why I'm confused today. Because a lot of times people expect me to get on the radio, and they expect me to have an opinion, and they expect me to be 100% in on that opinion. But I'm confused today. Because this is one of the rare moments where I don't think there's a wrong or a right opinion when it comes to what the Bears should do with the future of Caleb Williams for the rest of the season. The Bears are an absolute disgrace. The Bears are an absolute disaster. And here's the crazy part. On October 13th, this team was 4-2 entering a bye, and they were on a 3-game winning streak. Almost a month later, a little less than a month later, the Bears lost on a Hail Mary to the Commanders. They quit on their coach up against the Arizona Cardinals. And then they set offensive football back, 150 years with their performance up against the New England Patriots. The Bears are 4-5. You would think at 4-5, you could at least talk yourself into having a second half push and say, okay, we could correct the wrongs and right the wrongs that happened in the last 3 weeks and finish out the season strong through the second part of November and then all of December. But I can't sell you on that message. I can't sell you on that bull junk. I can't sell you on that bull crap because the Bears are who the Bears have always been. The Bears are who we thought they were, for crying out loud. Death, taxes, and the Bears ruining a quarterback. So today, Chicago doesn't make the wrong decision. They get rid of Shane Waldron, their offensive coordinator. And you know what my first reaction is? So what? All right, you get rid of the offensive coordinator. You make a change. I'll give you a slow little golf clap for that. But Matt Eberflus is still coaching the damn team. You're not going to win jack with Matt Eberflus as your head football coach. He stinks. He's rancid. And he all thought us with the record that he had last year. Oh, he made us all think, he deserves another year. Seems like a nice guy. Oh, they put him on Hard Knocks. Ooh, look at that slick hair that he has. Oh, it's unbelievable hair. Matt Eberflus is going to be different. And then they start out the year 4-2, and you're like, okay, Bears are in a good spot. But that locker room already had questions about Matt Eberflus. That locker room already had concerns about Matt Eberflus. And guess what happens? When you lose games like you did in the Hail Mary situation up against the Commanders, the players that were either out on Eberflus before the start of the season or on the fence, they all run right off the Titanic. But here's the problem. The Bears still have a month and a half, 2 months of football left. And they can't afford to ruin their franchise quarterback or a guy that they hope can be a franchise quarterback. So this is the crossroads that you're at. Do you sit Caleb Williams down and not let him play the rest of the season to protect Caleb Williams, or do you keep on trotting him out there? And I'm just going to be honest, 5 minutes past 3 o'clock, I've had basically all day to think about this, and I still don't know what the right answer is. When I woke up today and I was like, okay, do you sit Caleb Williams? My first response was no. And I'll tell you why in just a second. But when you go through the rest of the schedule, and I usually never put the bumpers up, I never usually put the floaties on when it comes to a franchise quarterback. I am usually play the youngster. But when you look at their remaining schedule with a team that is not all in for their coach, a team that is not all in on their quarterback, I think you can really, in a weird way, you could ruin this guy in his first season in Chicago. The rest of the season, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit, San Francisco, Minnesota, Detroit, Seattle, and Green Bay. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to tell you, like what a lot of people do in this world, that it's wonderful when it's not. The Bears would be lucky to get one more win this season. If they get 2 more wins this season, I think you should do cartwheels in the streets. That's how bad this Bears situation got. But here's what's the most concerning part. And ego's a big thing in the NFL. There's a lot of guys, though, that have big egos that shouldn't have big egos. And here's a report where if I'm a fan of the Chicago Bears, I am scared to death about the next month and a half, 2 months of the season. So Sylvie from ESPN Chicago had this tweet out after Adam Schefter about 5-6 hours ago said Shane Waldron is out as offensive coordinator for the Bears. This is what Sylvie said. After talking to a few people with knowledge of the situation, players went to Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles asking them to make a change at offensive coordinator. There have also been a few veteran players, wait for it, requesting Tyson Bagent to start. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. We all know Matt Eberflus isn't a good head coach. We all knew that the Bears had to change their offensive coordinator. But you have some grown men in that locker room who are veterans in this league that already want Caleb Williams to be benched. And I don't think it's, hey, let's sit down the youngster because we don't want to ruin his career. It's because the players in the locker room right now, some of them, these anonymous veterans, don't believe in Caleb. And that is a disgrace. Even though it's got real ugly the last 3 weeks, and this team is 4-5, and it feels like they haven't won a damn game for the entirety of the season with the way that it's been the last 3 weeks, the fact that you already have some veterans that want Bagent to start over Williams because they think he's better is a recipe for disaster. So when I woke up this morning and saw this, I'm like, you can't emasculate the quarterback. You can't sit down the quarterback. You will break Caleb Williams if you sit him down right now. But the more and more I think about it, I don't know if it's the right thing to do because you may lose Caleb Williams mentally. But with how tough the schedule is, how incompetent this head coach is, and also there are veterans in the locker room on the offensive side of the ball that don't want Caleb Williams as a starter, you're going to put your Ferrari out there. You're going to put him under center, the guy that's supposed to save this franchise, the guy that's supposed to be the first franchise quarterback in the history of the Bears. You're going to throw that guy in that crappy situation. We all know Eberflus, if the Bears have a pulse, is going to get fired at the end of the year. And this will end up being the biggest, and I mean biggest offseason in the history of the Bears. Because you have to hit the right head coach. You need a head coach who has a PhD in discipline, and you need to get the cancers out of this locker room. The coach has to have the power. The coach has to say, Caleb Williams is our guy. If you don't like it, bleep you and get out. That's what needs to happen. But right now, the more you play Caleb Williams with the tough schedule, with the crappy coach, and with players that don't want him, you could ruin him. And you will ruin him. And that's not being overdramatic in the moment. So I wasn't sold this morning when I woke up on sitting Caleb Williams. But when the day plays on out and you read things from respected media members and you hear things about that situation and you look at the schedule and you know who's coaching him, it would be a disservice to Caleb Williams to play him another snap for the rest of the season, if I'm just being honest. But what I still struggle with, and I'm still in like a mental pretzel about, is does Caleb Williams have the toughness to basically, even though you're protecting him, humiliate him by sitting his ass down on the bench? That locker room at 4-5, you would not think would be this much of a disaster. But it is an absolute train wreck, that locker room right now. And only if there was a radio host who predicted one thing the moment when Justin Fields got traded, and they said, hey, we're going to make Caleb Williams the guy. I said, even after the whole DJ Moore contract extension, that you may lose DJ Moore if you end up getting rid of Justin Fields with how outspoken he was about Justin Fields. But you look at DJ Moore, like, I don't want to assume anything because I don't have this as concrete fact, but there has been a disconnect, it feels like, just watching, with DJ Moore and Caleb Williams. And the Bears, we thought, were this good situation. Keenan Allen. They drafted Rome Odunze. You got DJ Moore. You got Cole Kmet. But there's just some organizations that are cursed. There are. And that's where we're at right now. We're at the cursed state. The Packers, right? Everyone thought they were in the wrong for drafting Jordan Love. Jordan Love looks like a rock star. There's just some organizations that it doesn't matter, even if they're thought to have the guy, that they always find a way to F it up. Seriously. 9 games in, even for Chicago standards. 9 games in. And we're already talking about, are the Bears going to ruin Caleb Williams? And it's really just in a month, 3 to 4 weeks, where once that Hail Mary was completed, this weak, pathetic, lame locker room just quit. What a bunch of losers in that locker room. And Matt Eberflus can't do a damn thing about it. So now I know all these players, right? A lot of them, they say, oh, we want a players coach. We want a Nick Sirianni that we could just walk all over. No, you need a Dan Campbell. You need someone who's a players coach, but he's still the head honcho. And when he says something, the players know he means business. But think about that. If that report is true from Sylvie in Chicago, after talking to a few people with knowledge of the situation, players went to Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles, asked him to make a change to the offense coordinator. Okay. But then the follow-up is damaging. There have also been a few veteran players requesting Bagent to start. Oh, my God. That means they have zero confidence in Caleb Williams. Zero. Which I don't know how you could have that after 9 games. Think about it. Tyson Bagent was undrafted in 2023. He went to Shepherd University or Shepherd College. And I had a little sip of coffee last year where he played. The guy, though, has 3 passing touchdowns and 6 interceptions in his career. And they want that guy to play over a guy who was a Heisman Trophy winner, one of the best players in college football, after only 9 games. It means 2 things. It can mean 2 things. One, the players in the locker room are just lame and weak, and they never gave Caleb Williams a chance. Or Caleb Williams has to be like the biggest jerk on the planet and has no way to communicate, has no leadership skills, and doesn't know how to gel with some of the veterans. It's crazy. And like me being a Patriot fan, my team has a bunch of loudmouth wide receivers who haven't done jack in this league that have been a pain, but they love Drake May. They may not like Gerard Mayo, but they like Drake May. And Drake May doesn't even have anywhere close to the talent around him in New England as they have in Chicago. And Drake May has won over that locker room. Caleb Williams, whether it's his fault or not, he's already rubbed some people the wrong way in the locker room, or those players are just so delusional. And they never wanted him from the start. What a disaster. Seriously. What a disaster. Stu, they're making the Raiders look competent right now. And that's not saying much. But geez Louise. Like the Bears, the Raiders, there's just teams. They can't get out of the Jets. They can't get out of their own way. This is ugly. So I was split on it because I fear that if you bench Caleb Williams, you're basically like bowing down to the mob, letting them get their way, or also you could break that kid's confidence. But if you're making the right decision, and you don't have good ownership there, if I'm the owner, I'm going to Caleb and saying, hey, I'm making this decision. I got to keep the coach. I don't believe in the coach anymore. We'll get you a new coach at the end of the year. We'll get all the cancers in the locker room. But this schedule is brutal, and we just don't have the pieces right now for you to fully function here. So just sit and learn. That's what I would do. But it's very tough once you sit a guy down. Like once you open up Pandora's box, or once the toothpaste gets out of the tube and you play him, it's very tough to say, oh, now we're going to put the toothpaste back in the tube, and then we'll eventually let the toothpaste leave the tube again next year. It's a tough one. There's no right answer there. But I think I would sit him down. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. Let's go to JC in Chicago right out of the gate. JC, what's shaking?
Well, man, that's been very good observations that you've been making. I would say enter Mike Vrain. He's a tough guy. He brings organization and accountability, and I believe he could bring the Bears back to the monsters of the Midway, their playing style.
You said Mike Vrabel? Is that who you said?
Yes, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I got to see who the offensive coordinator is, but I think that's a guy that fits the mold of he's a player's coach, players like him, but he's also a guy that players would fear him, and he's not a doormat. That, to me,
right.
Like if Dan Campbell right now is the happening coach in the league that a lot of organizations kind of look at and say, okay, he's like what a coach is in 2024, what we want. At like when you don't look at the established guys, like take Reed out of it, take Tomlin out of it, and Harbaugh. I think the mold of what a coach should be in 2024 is Dan Campbell. Vrabel is very much like Dan Campbell.
And I would say bring him in now. Forget about wait to the end of the season, because he can establish himself right now in that locker room. He can bring some order, and then by the end of the season, you'll have something to build on.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea. I don't think it's likely that he'll do it now, because Mike Vrabel's also going to want to use negotiation powers and see what else is out there. Because he's with the Browns right now in some consulting role, which, geez, talk about a miserable situation. But he could get a better job than the Bears this offseason. So I don't think that's going to happen right now, already at November 12th with Thanksgiving right around the corner. Should the Bears sit Caleb Williams? 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. What will the College Football Playoff Committee do tonight? I have a guess. We'll see if we go 2 for 2. Next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
The Bears disaster. Jeez. This got to be one of the worst 4-5 situations I've ever seen. Like, usually when you're 4-5, there's some optimism. You know, you could turn it around, still get to 9-8, still get to 10-7 and save your season. But when you look at the Bears firing Shane Waldron, right move, keeping Matt Eberflus, not the right move, and now the decision that's hanging over this organization, do you protect Caleb Williams and sit him down? And if you do that, do you end up losing your quarterback mentally? This is a mess. I'll tell you, January can't come soon enough for the Bears. They need the offseason to begin right now. And I would like to give you something. I would like to say, hey, Chicago, you could turn it around. You could put lipstick on a pig and you could save this season. But once again, Green Bay this weekend, Minnesota, at Detroit, at San Francisco, at Minnesota, Detroit, Seattle, and at Green Bay are the rest of their games. I got no hope for you. Whew. To those fans, before you even get to kickoff on Sunday in the Windy City at Chicago, do they just start chanting fire Eberflus? I'll be fascinated what that tone is. Usually, right, people get all liquored up. You go to these games, and you at least give the team a drive. But if there's ever been a team in the history of the NFL that could not afford to go 3 and out on Sunday, it's the 2024 Chicago Bears. 855-212-4227, 855-212-4227. It is the Zach Gelb Show. Let's go to Florida. Frank is next up. What's shaking, Frank?
You know, it wasn't that long ago when Caleb Williams and his team asked for part ownership of whatever team was going to draft him.
Yeah, I think
overall.
If memory serves me right, his father was like running that past agents. It was never going to happen. I remember Florio, he put out some article that there's a rule about players being able to be owners. So that was never going to happen. But, yeah, that was out there. There's no doubt about it.
You know, and the last caller with the Vrabel pick is a really good choice, but that's really not going to do nothing for Caleb. I suggest bringing Chucky back and letting Gruden try to work with the kid. Hopefully that could work out.
Here's the thing, though. Is Chucky a safe pick right now? Like, you need to make sure you hit on this next coach. John Gruden was really good in the early 2000s. You know, when after winning that Super Bowl, he was overrated.
He won a championship with Brad Johnson.
Yeah, no, he did. And he had a great defense. A great defense in Tampa Bay.
Fantastic defense. Bring Vrabel as the defensive coordinator. There you go.
I think Vrabel will be a head coach at his next job. Appreciate the phone call, Frank. You know, it's funny. People bring up names, and I don't have a relationship with John Gruden, but I am waiting to see if John Gruden does text me back. I actually reached out to John Gruden this morning. I acquired his number from someone that knows him, that knows me. And that happens. It's a common practice, right? People know what I do. They know I try to get guests on the show. And if they think they could help us get a guest, or if they have a relationship, because we help people out as well, they'll be like, hey, Zach, here's the number. So about a month ago, someone that I know, they said, we just had John Gruden on. Do not reach out to him. Wait a few weeks, and then reach out to him. Because you don't want to be like known as the guy that's just giving out everybody's number. If you do it the day of, it's pretty obvious that the number's circulating. So I did send John Gruden a text, and I offered him an opportunity to appear on this show, and I offered him an opportunity to come on to talk about quarterback play around the league, his future, and we'll see if John Gruden gets back. You know, I threw in there, hey, I've had Jay on a bunch of times. Also, I used to be sponsored by Corona. Talking about the beer, not coronavirus. But back in the day, I was sponsored by Corona. And they actually sent me a enormous John Gruden bobblehead where he was dressed up as a coach but in beach gear, and there was actually a bottle opener for your Corona beer. So we'll see if John Gruden gets back to me. And, you know, we usually have good success getting big names on the show and then making them say some big things. But the reason why I thought of that, reaching out to John today, is because the boys down the hall, Boomer and Gio on WFAN in New York, they were talking about John Gruden potentially coaching the Jets next year. I did see John Gruden, who was taken out of the Bucs Ring of Honor from everything that happened with the emails. He was at the Bucs game this past weekend up against the Niners, and he sat in the owner's luxury box, the Glazer family's luxury box with Tampa Bay. So there's been a lot of thought that John Gruden is going to be back in the Ring of Honor. That was the first step to restoring himself into the Ring of Honor. But that's something that's out there. In terms of there's a lawsuit still, right, with John Gruden and the aftermath of what did transpire from that. So it's like, would the NFL, would they allow him to get hired, or would it be like, oh, yeah, you could hire him and then hopefully that just all goes away? I don't know. I know that John Gruden has thrown it out there when he talked to CBS about a month ago, that he threw it out there over the possibility of him coaching college. So I don't even know if he thinks he could coach in the NFL again, but who the heck knows? But I look at John Gruden. For Chicago, you need to make sure that that's the right hire. And quite frankly, with Belichick out there, with Mike Vrabel out there, and with Ben Johnson also out there, and I know there's a risk with Ben Johnson because he's never been a head coach, one of those three guys I feel a whole lot comfortable about and more comfortable about than with John Gruden. So, with that being said, it's okay to miss on one of those names. Two of those names, you can't miss on all three. If the Bears have any damn clue what they're doing, and trust me, we know they do not, either Ben Johnson, Bill Belichick, or Mike Vrabel will be their head coach next year. Outside of those three names, I think I would have a tough time praising their hire, because this is a hire that will either save your franchise or will ruin your franchise. Because we make the jokes all the time how low the standards are for the Chicago Bears at the quarterback position. However, though, if you miss and mess up Caleb Williams, I don't care if they draft, like, let's say Tom Brady's son ends up becoming a big prospect and everyone's like convinced that he's going to be the next thing, or if I don't think it's going to go south that quickly, but who knows? Like, let's say Arch Manning is going to go to Chicago next year. It doesn't matter who the name is, how generational the prospect is, who his father is, what family comes from. You will always say, it doesn't matter if you put the greatest quarterback of all time in Chicago, they'll mess up. Like, hey, if you put Jaden Daniels with the Bears right now, are we talking about him being Offensive Rookie of the Year? If you put Drake May in Chicago right now, are we talking about him being Offensive Rookie of the Year? I think that some of it has to go on Caleb. But remember, that's a locker room where they were so outspoken about the possibility and their desire to keep Justin Fields that once they went all in on that, whoever was walking in, it was going to be a tough spot. Like Jalen Johnson saying, remember the Hollywood crap won't fly here? DJ Moore was so vocal in wanting Justin Fields to stay as the quarterback. And now you have veteran players reportedly, according to ESPN Chicago, saying, hey, we want Bajan to start after 9 games? 9? That's what we're doing? Whew. Like what? You put Joe Montana in that locker room? They wouldn't like him because it's not Justin Fields. That's just crazy. So the college football playoff rankings are to come out tonight. Here's what I think is going to happen. On the byes, I think Oregon will be the 1 seed, Texas will be the 2, BYU will be the 3, and Miami will be 4. Those are the 4 that I think are going to get the byes. Oregon, Texas, BYU, I don't even think is debatable. Miami's the interesting one to me because you could make the case SMU, who their only loss was to BYU, but I think they'll put Cam Ward in Miami, and even after Miami's loss to Georgia Tech over the weekend. For the first round matchups, this is what I think is going to happen. Boise State 12 at Ohio State 5. Ole Miss 11 at Penn State 6. Alabama with the 10th seed at Tennessee 7. And then Notre Dame on the road going to Kurt Cignetti's squad, Indiana University, Indiana being an 8. I told you last week, I predicted it dead on. Oregon, Georgia, Miami, BYU. Boise State at Ohio State, Alabama at Texas, Notre Dame at Penn State, Indiana at Tennessee. That was my 12 for 12 last week. And I got the seeds, everything right. This week, Oregon, Texas, BYU, Miami buys, with the first round matchups being Boise State at Ohio State, Ole Miss at Penn State, Alabama at Tennessee, Notre Dame at Indiana. I'll tell you, this week's tough. I flip-flopped some teams in and out there a ton. And I'm actually very, very excited to see the college football playoff reveal show tonight because a lot of chaos has gone down since last Tuesday. A lot's gone on in the world since last Tuesday. And I know that all has to do with the college football playoff committee, of course. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a time out. When we come on back, it is a Tuesday, so we'll do some Superstar Shoutouts when we come on back. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
And this report is sponsored by Mint Mobile. Switch and get half off unlimited premium wireless at mintmobile.com/score. Cowboys have lost 4 in a row and now have lost their quarterback for the season. Dak Prescott will undergo surgery on his injured hamstring. Recovery time is set at 3 months. Dallas is now 3-6 and in the hands of Cooper Rush. The Bears have made another change to their staff, firing offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. Chicago has scored only 27 points over the last 3 games, all losses. Passing game coordinator Thomas Brown expected to take over the offensive coordinator post. The Golden State Warriors have been the NBA's most recent dynasty with 4 championships and 6 finals appearances in 8 years. Steph Curry and Klay Thompson were the core of that team, but like all great bands, they broke up over the summer when the latter signed with the Mavericks. And tonight will face each other for the first time when Dallas visits Chase Center. Head coach Steve Kerr said on 95.7 The Fan, this is not your typical reunion, but it'll be interesting tonight. The Mavs have split their first 10 games. The Warriors are off to a terrific start at 8-2. The Suns, also 8-2, will take on the Jazz, and top-ranked Kansas with a strong schedule to start the year. The Jayhawks won their first 2 over Howard and North Carolina and face Michigan State tonight in Atlanta. The second part of the State Farm Classic features Duke and Kentucky. I'm Rich Ecker. You're in a 5-minute break.
4 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
Alrighty, the Defensive Player of the Week is sponsored by the Navy Federal Credit Union, who proudly serves the armed forces. DoD veterans and their families or members are the mission. Learn more at NavyFederal.org. This week's player is Lions cornerback Carlton Davis. The Sunday night's win over the Texans. Davis won Zach Gelb some money, having 4 tackles and picked off C.J. Stroud twice. As a team, the Lions held the Texans to just 248 total yards, 192 through the air, and 56 on the ground. And I hammered that money line at plus 186 to win some more money. Very successful gambling weekend for you, boy. And we'll see if we can continue that magic. I know eventually it's going to run out. But the last 4 or 5 weeks, it's been pretty good. You know, there used to be some people in September that would say that they would fade me. They would go against me. A certain person in the YouTube chat who went out of his way to say, you're so stupid picking football games. I fade you every week. I haven't heard from that person in about a month and a half. So I'm wondering if they put so much money down on my picks fading me that now they have no funds. That's what I just wonder. And they're living a miserable existence right now. Those are things that I wonder. I will say this, though, because I don't need to be, braggadocious about my football picking abilities. What our guest pickers have done this year, I'm not kidding. I think in the history of radio, there's nothing more impressive than what our guest pickers have been able to do this year. Like, we should sell our guest picker selections. So far, the guest pickers this year are 21-9 against the spread. And we're not those shows that just go, I'm afraid to make a prediction, so we won't put the spread out there, and we'll just have you pick who wins the game. No, I'm talking about against the spreads. 21-9 are our guest pickers. Like, I'm 17-13. What the damn do? 11-4 in the last 5 weeks. But 21-9 from our guest pickers? That's sensational. Or, excuse me, our guest pickers, one mistake on that. They are 20-10. Still pretty damn good. 20-10. Because Maggie did have the Steelers +3, the Chargers laying 7.5. She lost last night in the Rams laying 1. But Maggie goes 2-1. Now, Perloff, I think, went 3-0 when he was here. But they are 20-10, our guest pickers. Whew. So if you've been following the picks on Football Fridays, I'm 17-13. Our guest pickers are 20-10. Simply the best. Do. Alrighty, I'm going to stop singing because we want you to actually listen to this show. So Stuart, Stu Pac, Stu Kovacs Jr., let's get to some Superstar Shoutouts.
Another week in the books. Who stood out on the gridiron? We give you our Superstar Shoutouts right here on the Zach Gelb Show.
And coming up 15 minutes from now, Clay Matthews will join us. Alrighty, Stu, I'm going to ask you this. I'm going to follow your lead here today. You want to start off college football, or you want to start off with the NFL with the Superstar Shoutouts?
I think we start off NFL.
Okay. So we'll start off with the NFL. You know what? I'm in a giving mood today. You go first. Give me your NFL player.
All right. My player in the NFL is Chuba Hubbard, the Panthers running back. Now, I know the Panthers have been a disaster this year, but they won. They won on Sunday. They beat the Giants in Germany. He had a big game, 28 carries, 153 yards, and a rushing touchdown. And also last week inked a 4-year, $33 million deal. And right now he ranks 3rd in the league in rushing yards. So he's had a pretty good season.
All righty. I will go with the quarterback here that played up against the Jets, embarrassed Sauce Gardner, embarrassed Quinnen Williams, embarrassed Quincy Williams, and whoever else you want to call defensive players on the Jets. That is Kyler Murray. 22 of 24 for 268 passing yards with the passing touchdown, completed 91.7% of his passes. And oh yeah, by the way, had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Kyler's got his swagger back. Ooh. Kyler Murray gets my superstar shout out. All right, Stu, we'll let you go first again. Give me your coach.
All right, my coach is Darren Rizzi, the Saints interim head coach. They had lost
For clogging the toilet?
For clogging the toilet. He gave us that wonderful soundbite after the win, and also just the on-field performance. They snapped their 7-game losing streak in beating the Falcons by 3 points.
I will give my superstar shout out in the coaching world to Mike Tomlin. Now, we will hear from more of Mike Tomlin later in the news brief. When we get to what he had to say about his former player, Deontay Johnson, he was like, I just don't got time for that, pretty much. But Mike Tomlin got destroyed by many people for going to Russell Wilson. I didn't love the move. I'll be transparent, but it's worked. And Mike Tomlin goes up against the Washington Commanders when Jaden Daniels is all that, and the Steelers win the game. Mike Tomlin's just impeccable up against rookie quarterbacks. Mike Tomlin has the Steelers doing really well. We know where they're at right now in the regular season. Now you got to win a playoff game for the first time since 2016. But I give my superstar shout out to Mike Tomlin with the Steelers. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, taking care of the Washington Commanders. Stu?
All right, for my college football player, I will go with Jalen Milroe. He had a very nice game against LSU on Saturday. Now, the passing numbers, they weren't incredible. 12 of 18, 109 yards. But on the ground, 12 carries, 185 yards, and 4 rushing touchdowns. He has 16 rushing touchdowns on the season, which is 7th among all players, including running backs, 7th among all players, and he's the 2nd among quarterbacks behind only Bryson Daly of Army.
By the way, going back to Coach Rizzi, who clogged the toilet.
Okay.
Has there been a bad place you've ever clogged the toilet? Like an embarrassing spot? Just wondering.
No, it's either been at home or like at a public place.
But
Not
if you
like
do it in a public place,
yeah,
you
just run away.
Get up and get on out.
Yeah.
If you do it at your own place, you got to unclog it. You never done it at a family member's place or a friend's place or something like that?
Luckily, no. You have?
Maybe. May have clogged the toilet at my grandmother's house in Florida, and let's just say she is like your stereotypical Jewish grandmother, so she does not do well with any controversy or any chaos and anything getting altered slightly. And I thought I could unclog it myself, but maybe the sewage system there is past its prime a little bit. And let's just say a lot of water went all over the place. And I was like, Mayday, Mayday, someone help. We got a problem. But all worked out. All righty. My college football superstar shout out of the week for a player. We talk about Colorado. Who do we talk about? Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter. Well, how about we start talking about Amari McNeil and start putting some respect on his name? He was unbelievable in Colorado's comeback victory up against Texas Tech. He had 9 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and a sack and a half. And for everything that I know about Amari McNeil, he did not clog a toilet when he was in Lubbock. He just got a victory, and they got back on the plane and went back to Boulder. Colorado controls their own destiny to win the Big 12 and make the college football playoff. Crazy, 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 crazy. Primetime players make primetime plays in the big moment, and that's what Amari McNeil did this past Saturday, so give him a superstar shout-out. Stu, who's your coach?
All right, speaking of primetime and speaking of Colorado, I will go with Coach Prime Deion Sanders. Again, that nice win over Texas Tech, but it's really for the body of work these past 2 years. 7-2 this year, as you mentioned, have a very good shot at the playoffs and winning the Big 12. But I've just been impressed. A lot of people doubted him last year and coming into this season, but he's done a really nice job with that team.
Can I ask you a question here?
Sure.
So I read an article or a tweet that Deion Sanders now gets $100,000 for every win.
I saw that.
There was a certain mark that if he was over it, he would get $100,000 for each win. So I saw his son, Shedeur Sanders, on the plane, and he was like, Pops, where's my cut? And Coach Prime made it seem as if that's just not true, or he just didn't know of that. Is that just one of those things where it's like he knows that he's getting this money, but he basically just told his kid or his player, both in this case, to bleep off? Or do you think Deion, with how much money that he has, he's not realizing when an extra $100,000 is owed his way?
Oh, that must be nice.
Yeah, right.
I think he knows and he's just playing it off.
Okay.
That's what I think.
My coaching shout out this week in college. The Lane Train. Choo-choo! All aboard! How about Lane Kiffin? Come on in to the Grove, Georgia. Get smacked. We'll even spot you a pick out of the gate, and you'll score a touchdown. It don't matter. That offense, good enough. The defense really deserves most of the credit. They were balling. Not like they play for New England, but like they play for Ole Miss. That was unbelievable. Lane Kiffin gets a big-time victory. There were big-time expectations for Ole Miss this year, and it looked like they weren't going to meet them after their losses to Kentucky by 3 and LSU by 3. But now the Lane train is back on the tracks, and they're trying to choo-choo all the way to the college football playoff. And I hope they win 2 more games. They got a bye week, then 2 more games. They should be able to take care of business in those next 2 and go to the college football playoff. Florida could only dream of having a coach like Lane Kiffin. Instead, you're stuck with Billy Napier. All righty, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We will take a timeout. When we come on back, a man that has great hair will join us. He is a 6-time Pro Bowler. He was a 1-time first-team All-Pro. He is a Super Bowl champion. And I don't know how many people know this or remember it. At one point, he was a walk-on. A walk-on at USC. So joining us on the other side, USC legend. Go, Pack, go! Green Bay Packers legend. Super Bowl champion. Friend of Aaron Rodgers. Clay Matthews is going to be stopping on by with us. We'll talk about his old football coach, Mike McCarthy. We'll talk about Caleb Williams. We'll talk about the Packers. And we will also, of course, talk about Aaron Rodgers. You don't want to miss it. Coming up in 5 minutes from now on the Zach Gelb Show. Clay Matthews here with us. Make sure you give us a follow. Twitter, Instagram, at Zach Gelb. That's ZACHGELB.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
All righty, rocking and rolling. It is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network, coast to coast. Let's go out to the guest line right now. Welcome in a USC legend, a Green Bay Packers legend, and of course, a six-time Pro Bowler, a Super Bowl champion. Clay Matthews here with us on behalf of Crown Royal. Clay, appreciate the time. Thanks for it. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks so much for coming on. So I actually want to start you off with the family question. We know your dad has been waiting a long time to get into the Hall of Fame. If this is the year, and I know it's tough to even think if that's going to actually happen with how long the wait's going to be, what would that moment just mean for your family?
Well, it would mean a great deal. My dad has a unique perspective, and that he's constantly saying that he's at peace with his career. But I think anybody would be lying if they say they don't want to be recognized for what they were able to accomplish, especially when you're talking about the pinnacle, the ultimate achievement at an individual level of making the Hall of Fame. And I know he's now, after that 25 years from since he retired, he moves into this other category. I'm blanking on it right now.
Senior category, yeah.
I'm hopeful, yeah, and I'm hopeful that it happens sooner rather than later. I know his last year was disappointing in that 25th vote. From our insiders there, I guess he finished either 6th or 7th of those top 5. So just to know how close he was to be immortalized, for lack of a better term, and appreciated for what he was able to do during his 19-year career was disappointing. But he still got a chance in that senior committee. He deserves it. And I'm speaking, having gone through my own NFL 11-year career, understanding what he was able to do at the level in which he was able to do it, and continually doing it. So I think he'll get in hopefully sooner rather than later.
I remember talking to Jerry Kramer for all those years, and he would always say to me, the commissioner thinks I'm in. All these legendary defensive linemen that I did go up against thought I was in. Even the great John Hanna thought he was in. And thankfully, one day, he did get a call a few years ago. When we look at your career, it's kind of wild. You've been out of the game for a while, and that's right around the corner. Have you thought about potentially being a Hall of Famer one day?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, like I just mentioned with my father, I was fortunate to grow up in a football family and understand the asks of this game. That's why I think I had so much success, especially early in my career coming in as a rookie, but being able to sustain that. And so now that I'm several years removed, you think about that, and at least with the individual and team accolades that we and I were able to have and maintain, absolutely, I feel like I deserve to be in that discussion. So we'll see moving forward what that means. But yeah, I mean, getting back to the dad talk, let's get Clay Senior in there first, and then we can work. Then we can get the political machine going on me.
Once the one Matthews domino fall, maybe the other one will follow right
Well,
after
we got Uncle Bruce in there. Now we need my dad, and we'll start working down the list.
With your football family, and it's one of the great football families, like you look at your journey, you were a walk-on at USC, then a first-round draft pick, eventually Super Bowl champion, such a ferocious defensive player, 6-time Pro Bowler. Did you always think, even when you were at USC and, you weren't established, that it wasn't a matter of just if you're going to become a great football player, it was when with the family background?
I wish I could say yes, and I knew all along, but that wasn't the case. In fact, I've got a funny story. I don't know if I've mentioned it before to anybody, but I told my younger brother, Casey, I told him, I think it was after my redshirt junior year. I got a little bit of playing time. Brian Cushing, who was playing in front of me, he had hurt his ankle that year, so I got to go in a couple games, and I hoped that I could be either a late draft pick or a free agent and get just enough money to buy a used car and fix it up. And that's what I told him. I said, that was my dreams and aspiration. Fortunately, I hung on for my 5th and final year at SC, and ultimately I got the nod, to be a starter and made my impact. And then Ted Thompson, who has since passed with the Packers, he decided that I was worthy enough, and I like to think the rest was history. So to answer your question, I didn't have big plans. I just kind of stayed the course, kept my nose down, and worked hard. And I just, all of a sudden it started coming together that the road in which I took, as far as being a walk-on and being doubted, provided that chip. I know it's cliche, but that motivation to achieve new heights.
Clay Matthews here with us on behalf of Crown Royal. We'll talk about the great work that you're doing with them in just a second. I'm based out of New York City. We're on around the country. The Jets are the big story. They're 3-7. Obviously, it has not gone the way that Aaron envisioned this season. He turns 41 in a few weeks. Do you feel like this is it for Rodgers? Is this the end of the road, or will he be back next year?
Oh, no, I don't know. I can't speak for him. We do more talking in the offseason. I don't want to bother him during the season, but it has been frustrating to watch. As a Aaron fan and as a close friend of his, obviously I want nothing but the best for him, and that involves success with the Jets. And on top of that, the Jets, after being on Hard Knocks and seeing some of the personalities and the athletes that they have, I mean, it feels like they have the roster to be great. And unfortunately, they're one of the teams, along with the Packers, that I, instead of watching the red zone, I'll watch them, and unfortunately it's just not clicking. So I was excited when Devontae came out there, and obviously, you could use the excuse, well, he's only been there for, a couple weeks, and for them to emulate the success and the chemistry they had back in Green Bay. I mean, it's been years. So, but it just doesn't seem like they're clicking. And then I know, obviously, you being in New York, I'm sure there's if you dive deeper, what does that mean organizationally, from the coaching from the coach being fired to kind of the future, especially with what you said, Aaron as your quarterback. I know it probably seems bleak out there, but I'm hopeful that they can get rolling, because I mean, I remember watching week 1 when they played San Francisco, and that first drive they had down the field, I said, wow, they look good. So I know they have it, but at this point, halfway through the season, are you, I mean, you are what you put on tape, or are we building the chemistry? So I don't know if you're, silver lining, or if it's doomsday out there in New York.
Here's the thing that I just wonder, all right, and you have the player perspective of it. If you guys could play until you're 100, you would do so. We know that's not realistic. When you're having an underwhelming season, a bad season, like how much does that pull on you when you've had such a great career where, man, I just don't want to go out this way, and maybe you get a little greedy and think you could find that fountain of youth one more time?
Yeah, I hear you. I definitely think players are probably split on that, because you absolutely, the warrior in us thinks that we can play until we're 100. But I know for me, speaking on experience, in year 10, we switched defensive coordinators. I had my career, the lowest number of sacks in my career in that last year, and the Packers opted not to renew my or not to give me a new contract. And I knew I could still play. I knew I had it in me. I'm like, you got to believe me. The system doesn't, quite fit. And so I went off to LA for a year, 8 sacks in 13 games. I knew I could still play. And I felt like I could still play after that. But to your point about us playing to War 100, I looked around and I had 3 young kids and we had just moved. We had just built a home. And I said, all right, I think I'm good. I'm going to step away. So I feel like there is that balance of being a competitor versus truly, looking at yourself and seeing where you're at. And the best athletes, the best people can look at their shortcomings and be real with themselves.
When we get to the Packers, because we're on in a few stations in the great state of Wisconsin, I know it was disappointing 2 weeks ago up against the Lions coming off a bye week after a tough loss. What do you think this team can accomplish? Like last year, impressed a lot of people. Jordan Love on the map, LaFleur proving that he could coach without Aaron Rodgers. Are they ready to take that next step, or do you still think they're another year away?
Well, I think they have the ability to. I don't know if they will. They've eked out a number. Well, I wouldn't say a number, but I've watched a few games where they've been able to win tight games. I think they've had other games where it's been in hand, and defense has created a number of turnovers. Love has looked great. So, but when you're playing in that NFC North where, Minnesota has looked great. I know they dropped a few recently, and then obviously the Lions are the Lions right now. I think they're just going to have, the Packers that is, are going to have to fly under the radar. Hopefully, if the Lions keep rolling, get one of those wild card spots. And if it's anything like our 2010 season in which we won the Super Bowl, it's all about who gets hot. And you saw that from the Packers last year when they went down to Dallas and just rolled through them in the playoffs, and then went out to San Francisco. And I obviously know how that game ended, but I want to say they either had a lead or they were rolling, and there was a few, I think they missed 1 or 2 interceptions. And there were a few opportunities missed to kind of put that game away. And it was closer than I'm sure most would have given them. So I think it's all about who the hottest team is. And hopefully if the Packers just stay the course, like you had mentioned, LaFleur's doing a heck of a job coaching, especially when Love's out. He's been playing well. The team looks good. So we'll see what that means, once the playoffs roll around.
And the Bears are the Bears. They fired their offensive coordinator today in Shane Waldron. There's a report from Sylvie out in Chicago that there's some veteran players that want them to actually bench Caleb Williams. Are the Bears just going to mess Caleb Williams up like they always do with quarterbacks?
I hope not. I hope not, because as you have mentioned, as a former Trojan, to watch Caleb at USC was impressive. Even his last year there, I think they lost a number of games, but he was still throwing for 400 or 500 yards. He was fun to watch, kept his eyes downfield, found the receiver that was uncovered. And now it doesn't look good down there. I think all the hope, for lack of a better term, that we thought, especially with 2 first-round picks, a new franchise quarterback, hasn't really resonated. So it's hard for me to say, not being in that locker room as well. Is that coaching? Are we going to make some changes? We get back to, these quarterbacks, the Love, the Rodgers, when you sit for a few years and, because this game comes at you fast. It's hard, especially as a quarterback, to just transition in and have immediate results. So I don't know. I don't know if it's in the best interest to bench him. I think that could... It depends on the person he is, if that could hurt his feelings, so to speak, or if he comes back ready, as what you see what's happening in Indianapolis. If they come back and they're ready to kind of take a step back, look in the mirror, look at who's in front of them, a veteran perhaps, and make those changes. So it's not looking good for the Bears.
It's like death taxes and the Bears just being the Bears, right? I hate to say it.
I'm trying to be nice as a former Packers player too. I'm trying to be nice here.
You have in the alumni perspective, do you kind of still believe in Lincoln Riley, or is it like, man, it's just not going the way that we thought this was going to go?
Yeah, I mean, I still have faith in him. I will say, I don't want to be too critical here. I'd love to see a little bit more kind of, I'm going to say grit, for lack of a better term. I'd love to see, you see a lot of defensive-minded coaches, the mentality of the team. And obviously offensively, I mean, over the past however many years, and for as long as Lincoln has been coaching, has been able to, 3-4 Heisman Trophy winners. So it shows that he's capable of putting together an offense. But I know they're lacking, like watching them at the tackle position, offensive tackle. So the quarterback is just getting rattled back there. I mean, listen, they've been close. I don't know if we're a few players away or what, because SC historically has always had, those players who can turn the tide, who can, win these big games. It's just, yeah, I mean, a lot of these games have come. I think they're all one possession games. I mean, had Penn State on the ropes, out there in Michigan, Minnesota, Maryland. It's just, one or two, or it's almost forgivable. But at this point, I think with the quarterback changes you see, we're kind of searching for answers.
How about the work that you're doing today, Clay Matthews, with Crown Royal?
Yeah, so Crown Royal is the official whiskey sponsor of the NFL, and I'm excited to be on their NFL Legend roster this year. And that means the Crown Royal rig, which is a larger-than-life 18-wheeler. It's got two enormous white oak whiskey barrels on the back, that iconic Crown Royal purple paint. They're driving through 10 different NFL cities, tailgating on game days. And the Crown Royal rig and myself are going to be at Lambeau Field on Thanksgiving. So I'm encouraging all fans to come on out, come mingle with us, have some drinks. There's going to be some giveaways. But I think what's even cooler than that is how Crown Royal is involved in giving back to the military through their Purple Bag Project, in which they're putting morale boosting items in them, giving them to packages from home to give out to our active military or overseas or deployed. So I think it's just not only are we going to have a good time there on game day, but we're doing a good deed as well. And even more so than that, I'm donating one of my game used jerseys that one lucky fan has a chance to enter to win. It's on the network app, so you can go there to kind of put your name in the hat, so to speak. And for all other information that you may need, we're directing everybody to the Crown Royal Instagram app. So it'll be a good time. I'm really looking forward to getting back to Lambeau, having some fun and taking care of the military.
I know you got to run. Last thing I'll ask you, your old football coach, Mike McCarthy with the Cowboys. It seems like, unfortunately, this is going to be his final year there. Last year, the contract, you got Micah Parsons now saying a bunch of things on his podcast about him. It just, I actually feel bad for Mike, who's a good football coach.
Yeah, and I think, even going into this last year, I mean, 3 years?
12 win seasons.
12 win seasons, and to not have that security. I know they do things different down in Dallas, and unfortunately, they just haven't had the success with Dak going on having season-ending surgery. And you're right, your star defensive player just saying things that you try and keep that in house, even if that's how you feel. So it doesn't look good, from the outside looking in. And Mike's always been fantastic to me, and I have the utmost respect for him and what he's able to do. So. Yeah, to that point, I hate to feel bad for anybody, but you just look at the situation in itself, and it looks bleak. It doesn't look good. And I don't know what that means moving forward for the organization or for Mike, but with all the success he had who knows where they go from this point, but to go out on that, you hate to see it.
He's Clay Matthews on behalf of Crown Royal. Clay, once again, good luck to your dad, and appreciate you doing this.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
There he is, Clay Matthews, joining us on behalf of Crown Royal on the Zach Gelb Show. We will take a break. When we come on back, should Aaron Rodgers retire after this season? And also, I put out my college football playoff predictions for tonight on what I think the committee will do. We talked about that at 3:20 p.m. Eastern time today. Samter made me a nice little bracket. And after looking at the bracket, I have one major takeaway from my predictions. We'll get into all that when we come on back in 5. Sports fans, listen up. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and bladder leaks can be a side effect. That's why Depend is teaming up with the Prostate Cancer Foundation to encourage screening, because health is a long game, and it's yours to win. Now, here's the cool part. Through November, Depend is contributing up to $300,000 to prostate cancer research by donating 40 cents for every purchase of shields, guards, and Real Fit products. Void in Mississippi. Learn more at depend.com.
You're in a 4.5-minute break. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So I gave you what I think is going to be the 12 teams in the college football playoff and the projections and the rankings that are to come out later tonight. Sometimes you see someone else do this exercise and it just elicits a response from you for things to monitor. So CBS Sports put out their rankings. Brad Crawford put out his rankings. He had Oregon 1, Texas 2. So, agreed. He has Miami 3. And then Boise State 4. And then his Big 12 representative was BYU in at 6. So the 4 highest ranked conference champions get a bye. And then whoever is the 5th can be ranked anywhere, but they have to be a top 12 team, right? So I thought maybe Boise State could get the 4th spot. But then you would have to move down the ACC team. I don't think the Big 12 right now with BYU, and I know they were 9 last week, but then they were 4 on the seed line. After Miami lost, and I know BYU won by the skin of their teeth, but to put BYU 6, who hasn't lost, to Miami 3, where you could make a case maybe it should be SMU over Miami, that doesn't make sense to me. So I'll give you the rest of his bracket. Once again, this is his bracket, not mine. Oregon 1, Texas 2, Miami 3, Boise State 4. Then after that, he had Ohio State 5, BYU 6, Indiana 7. He had Penn State 8, Alabama 9, Georgia 10, Notre Dame 11, and Ole Miss in at 12. So he has Georgia getting in, which I do think that's something to monitor tonight. If you will see Georgia get in the college football playoff. But here's the thing that doesn't make sense. Because I'm thinking, like, who did he leave out to put Georgia in that I didn't have in? He left Tennessee out, who has 1 loss. How do you leave Tennessee out of the playoff right now? And I know that maybe that's like you're predicting ahead with Georgia playing Tennessee, but this to me is what it is for tonight, not what you're predicting to move ahead. And here's the difference. And I'm not going after this guy. Like, whatever. Brad Crawford wants to put out his rankings. Let him put out his rankings. Maybe he'll end up being right. But Stu, I think it's very simple to do this. There's people that put out rankings on how they think the committee will rank them. And then there's people that put out rankings on, let me just do outlandish things, which is a little bit more fun if I'm being honest, to get a response and actually have people drive clicks towards what they're putting out just to, like, basically quote tweet and then dunk on them. So I do think he brings up a fair point in terms of, will Georgia get in? Also, can we see the non-Core 4 conference champion get up to the top 4 spot? But to put Georgia in, it's like if Georgia's a top 12 team tonight and they get one of the top 12 spots, who do you leave out? And I think leaving Tennessee out at the expense of Georgia doesn't make sense to me. And also, if you're going to move Boise, and trust me, I don't think anyone's more pro Boise State on this show than me, or in the country, nationally, national radio host than me. But to put Boise in the 4 spot, I can listen to that. But Stu, I don't get how you put them in the 4 spot, put Miami 3 getting one of the buys, and then BYU hasn't lost a game yet. They're not in the top 4. It's like that to me is fascinating when I take a look at it.
Yeah, and I know this isn't the end-all, be-all, but if you just look at the AP top 25, I mean, BYU is 7th.
Yeah.
And Miami is 12th, and Boise's 13th. Like, they're way ahead. Like, if you're predicting ahead, that's one thing, but there's no way that the committee is going to rank them like that. I just can't see that.
And also, since I'm a authoritative voice on this matter, since I got a 12 for 12 right last week, let's just go through the 12 from last week. Oregon was 1. Georgia was 2. Okay, so in his bracket then, Texas basically takes the spot of Georgia. Miami was 3. BYU was 4. So you would think Miami wouldn't stay the same after the loss, and you wouldn't think BYU would stay the same after they won, except in this case, he had them fall back. And then the first-round matchups last week were Boise State at Ohio State. They were Alabama at Texas, Notre Dame at Penn State, Indiana at Tennessee. So Alabama, who was 11 last week, after a woman move up in his bracket, that's fine. Penn State, they would fall back. Like, they were 7 last week, then they would fall back to 8. Like, that's where you lose me in these rankings. You really do. When you start like that, like that's how I did my rankings tonight. I said, I'm not putting Georgia in. I said, I'm going to flip-flop BYU moving in front of Miami. I thought about maybe putting SMU in there, but I don't think the committee will do that. And then I said, I'm going to keep Boise State at the 12th spot. But then pretty much every other team, that, one, I just moved up with some teams losing that had to fall back, which gets me to my bracket, which was Oregon 1, Texas 2, BYU 3, Miami 4. Ohio State was in at 5. I moved Penn State up to 6. Tennessee was 7. Indiana was 8. Notre Dame was 9. Alabama 10. Ole Miss 11. And Boise State 12. I will say, though, when Samter puts it in bracket form, if you are the 5th seed, the 12th seed, the 6th seed, or the 11th seed, it's a big advantage. Because you would think, right, the Big Ten SEC winners are going to be 1, 2, whether it's the Big Ten being 1 and the SEC being 2, or vice versa. If, let's just say, it is the ACC and the Big 12 being 3, 4. Now, if the Big 12 ends up being Colorado, well, like Colorado's playing, you may want to avoid them. But let's say if it is BYU, who's undefeated, in at 3, and then Miami is in at 4. Think about this. The first round matchup, Ohio State, Boise State. The winner of that, if they played Miami, Stu, like Ohio State would be a favorite in that game. I don't think Boise State would be a favorite, but I would feel a lot more confident. Like I would actually pick Boise State if they beat Ohio State, which I don't think they would. I do think Boise State could have a first round upset. I don't think it's going to come up against Ohio State. But if Boise State got through Ohio State and played Miami, I would pick Boise State to beat Miami. And then on the other side, Penn State, Ole Miss, the winner of that, yeah, I would pick them right now to beat BYU, even though I'm a huge fan of Jake Retzloff at BYU right now with what he's doing. And that's not to be offensive, because I know some will be like, oh, yeah, I'm Jewish. You know, just that's the whole nickname and the name, image, and likeness if you've been following that story. So Indiana, Notre Dame right now, Stu. Like, let's say if you're Fighting Irish beat Indiana, then they have to go play Oregon. You feeling great about playing Oregon?
No, I am not.
Alabama, Tennessee. Now that's an SEC matchup. The winner of that would go on to play Texas, also now in the SEC. That would be fun, man. That would be fun. All right, I'm just going to do an exercise here real quickly, Stu. I'm just going to ask you a question.
Okay.
If you had to pick a national champion right now, before I even give you what the odds would be, if you just had to take one team, I say, Stu, we're going to throw you salary. We would not do that because that would not be responsible. But I'm just saying, if we had to throw your salary on one team to win the college football playoff, the team that you are most confident in to win the college football playoff, who would be the team that you'd be most confident in?
I would say Oregon right now. That would be, if I had one pick, that would be the pick for me.
Okay. Now, if I said I'm going to lend you the money, so you're not losing any money, because right now to win the national championship, Oregon would be at plus 420 outright winner. They are not the odds-on favorite to win the national championship. You know who is? You want to guess?
Gonna guess it's Texas?
No, it's Ohio State.
Okay.
Ohio State at plus 300. Texas is at plus 450. I'll give you all these numbers. Here's the question, Stu. If I gave you, let's say, $30,000 out of the kindness of my heart.
Sure. That'd be great.
And you just said, I'm trying to make, I'll give you two picks. You put 15 grand on one, 15 grand on the other. Right? I said 30,000. 15 plus 15 is 30. Who would be the two teams with the odds that you would end up taking? Ohio State plus 300, Oregon plus 420, Texas plus 450, Georgia plus 750, Alabama plus 850, Ole Miss plus 950, Penn State plus 2,000, Notre Dame plus 2,000, Tennessee plus 2,500, Indiana plus 2,500, Miami plus 3,500. That's where I'll kind of draw the line in the sand. Who would be the two schools that you would take? You got $15,000 each that I would just, out of the kindness of my heart, just give you. Fun Monopoly world we live in. You have to take two schools. Who would the two schools be?
Give me Oregon and Texas. I know they're on the higher side of odds, but I would feel comfortable about one of those teams winning it all.
If I was getting free money, and you're probably right, you should maybe take like one towards the tippy top of the list and then one that is kind of in the middle.
If I took one away from the tippy top,
yeah,
I think I would go Alabama.
So you would go Alabama, and then who would be the one team that you go to the top?
I'd go Oregon and Alabama.
Okay, you go Oregon, Alabama. I think that's a smart play. If you didn't want to take one of the top three highest odds, Ohio State, Oregon, and Texas, and it's tough not to take Georgia at plus 750, even though they already have two losses, because they may not be in tonight, but they could be in at the end of the year. You want to know the two teams that I would think I'd place money on right now? And I may be called stupid for this. Alabama plus 850, Ole Miss plus 950. I think both those teams right now are dangerous. Ole Miss's defense was awesome up against Georgia, and we know what the offense is capable of. And Alabama, it's gambling. It's gambling. Because when that defense is off, they stink. When that offense is off, Jalen Milroe looks like he should be nowhere near the first round. But when Jalen Milroe clicks, geez, lights out what you saw the other night. 4 touchdowns on the ground. And then when that defense, the way it's been playing the last 3 weeks, it's trending in the right direction. So I would contemplate plus 850, Alabama plus 950 on Ole Miss. All righty, we will take a time out on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'll get into my opinion on Aaron Rodgers later. I do think he should retire after this year. I do. To run it back next year with the Jets, you'll have a new head coach coming in. We don't know who that will be, but I think you just walk away. It's getting ugly for you. Your team's 3-7. Who cares if you annoy some Jets fans and you don't come back for next season? But I would walk away. You're going to be 41. I don't think you're going to find the fountain of youth. I know it's tough to go out this way, but it is a bleep show right now with the Jets. I know there's 1 year left in the contract, but I would walk away and just retire and start the clock from ticking. And on your time, the 5 years I need to go by to get into the Hall of Fame. But anyway, we'll get into more of that later. When we come on back, it is a Tuesday, so we will get to a little overreaction. Proper reaction, update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network Sports Flash.
Well, Dak Prescott's season is over. The Cowboys quarterback will have surgery on his injured hamstring. Injury more common in hockey. The prognosis is optimistic, but he will not play again this year with recovery time set at 3 months. The Bears made a change to their sputtering offense, firing head offensive coordinator Shane Waldron 10 months after he was hired. Passing game coordinator Thomas Brown is expected to take over as the new offensive coordinator. The Warriors are back home and boasting an 8-2 record, among the best starts in the Western Conference, and the Mavericks come to the Bay Area in Klay Thompson's return. One part of the Splash Brothers, Thompson spent 11 seasons in the Golden State, went to 5 All-Star games, 6 NBA Finals, and was a big part of 4 championships. It promises to be an emotional night, but Thompson more focused on his current team rather than his previous one.
Be good to see people that you grinded with, obviously, but to me it's just another regular season game in November. Obviously there's bigger implications with the NBA Cup, so that's what's on our mind, is in my mind, is just to win that, because I haven't been a part of it yet. I know it's young, but it'd be fun to play for that title.
The Suns are also 8-2, with Kevin Durant, former Warrior, entering Utah tonight. A great early season college basketball doubleheader in Atlanta. Top-ranked Kansas meets Michigan State in the first game, followed by 6th-ranked Duke and number 19 Kentucky in the State Farm Classic. I'm Rich Akron.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
This portion of the show is brought to you by Ethos Life. The way to get life insurance in 10 minutes, up to $2 million in coverage, no medical exam, and just a few health questions. Get your free quote at checkethos.com, not available in all states. Hey, Stu, before I get to overreaction, proper reaction, you're pretty much an expert in being a fan, even though you're like a level-headed fan. But I think you're an expert in sometimes calling for a coach to get fired, where it's like anybody but him, because you've had some organizations that just hire incompetent coach after incompetent coach. The reason I bring this up is like when the mob wants something and then you give it to them, sometimes it's just never good enough. So I like Nebraska football, right? Because Matt Rule is there. And that's a fan base that deserves a winning product again. And they got off to a good start to the season. And then the offense, let's just be real, has been terrible. And I know the offensive coordinator, Marcus Satterfield, because he was the OC when I was at Temple. I like Marcus Satterfield. But they needed to make a change. So they didn't fire Marcus Satterfield. Like, he's still on staff. But Marcus Satterfield is no longer the offensive coordinator. With that being said, Dana Holgorsen, who used to be a head coach, and he was brought on staff like a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, he is now being the offensive coordinator. And people are like upset by it. Like, you can't have it both ways. You wanted Satterfield gone, so they demote Satterfield. He's not calling the plays anymore. And then Dana Holgorsen ends up becoming the offensive coordinator. It's like, how can you have this guy be the offensive coordinator where he's only been there for 2 weeks? So, like, I just don't get it, Stu, when it's almost like you give people something and then they're annoyed with the replacement, where it's like most of the time whenever you appoint someone that wasn't the offensive coordinator anyway before the season start, there's never like this great, wonderful option.
Yeah, it's really tough. I mean, like with the Raiders have done that so many times where the coach, you just never know what you're going to get. And it's just, you want the guy gone, but it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't really change a lot in the immediacy. Like Luke Getsy gets fired.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I probably think he deserved to be fired. I wasn't a big fan of his, but it's not like the Raiders are going to go on this big winning streak now because they got rid of him, I don't know.
Who is even the interim offensive coordinator for the Raiders?
It's Norv Turner's son, Scott Turner, I believe.
And then they brought in
Norv is like consulting.
Yeah.
For better or worse,
I know,
guess.
like Thomas Brown is now going to be the interim OC with the Bears. So, like, the Bears get rid of Shane Waldron today. Right move, they had to get rid of him. They really need to get rid of Matt Eberflus. Like, Thomas Brown was the OC of the Panthers, like, in 2023. Like, what else do you really expect to change? So I sometimes understand making a change, but then people that want the change and object to the change being made because they don't think they brought, like, what else are you supposed to do? In this case, I get it. Dana hasn't been around the program for a while, but that's a former head coach on the college level. So I have no problem with it. But I don't get the people, and I see it on social media, and this is my biggest problem with the new Twitter. I see so many people's opinions that I don't want to see. There used to be a time you'd only see people's opinions that you follow. And, like, let's be real. There's also, like, a lot of other things you see on this new Twitter that, let's just say, are rated R, all right? They are not PG-13. But I know, like, because I follow some people that cover Nebraska football, and, right, I follow Matt and people on the staff, like Terrence Knighton and some of the other coaches that are there. So it's in my algorithm. And I see so many people are like, oh, I wanted Marcus Satterfield to be demoted, but now I'm not happy with the guy that they picked. It's like, what the heck are you going to do? It's also weird how your phone hears things and then it pops up. Remember Maggie when she was on Friday? She did that, like, TikTok thing, like, oh, what do the kids say? You're very demure or whatever. And then I've been getting that in my algorithm, that stupid trend, all throughout the weekend. And then Bella B in Calgary even just said, you're looking very demure today, Zach. So now I know that's going to happen more and more and more.
Yeah, me and the girlfriend yesterday were talking about TSA pre-check. And then the first Instagram ad that she got was for TSA pre-check.
Are you guys not TSA pre-checkers?
I am, and she is not. And we need to get her on board.
Have you guys flown together somewhere?
Yes, we flew once. Where did we go this summer?
Well, hold on. I don't care where you guys went. Did you go through and you just said, hey, hun?
I'll meet you on the other side.
Go sit with the regular people.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuart, good job out of you. Because a lot of people, especially people that are a little whipped, would be like, oh, honey, of course, I'll escort you through security. It's not my fault that I'm not saying your girlfriend's incompetent, but that she didn't get the TSA pre-check. Why didn't she get TSA pre-check?
She just never realized how useful or good
it's life-changing.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It took me. I just got it last year, so I was kind of late to the game too.
I was late to the game as well. It was one of the Super Bowls, before one of the Super Bowls, that this girl that I was dating, she suggested to me to get it. And like a little fling I was having with this girl. And it was actually, even though, it came and went, but, I thought the best thing she ever did for me, actually, for the operation of my life moving forward, was suggest TSA pre-check. Like, she demanded that I did it. I went through the whole process and got it, and then it ended up working. So you never know, things like that. All righty, let's get to a little overreaction, proper reaction before we ruin Stu's relationship. Let's get to it.
Another NFL week is complete, which means it's another week to freak out about your favorite team. Which takes are truly crazy.
But sometimes a game can be so bad, it's almost good. You know what I'm saying? No.
And which are so crazy, they might be right.
He's 6'5", he's 245 pounds. He's probably a Popeye's biscuit away from being a tight end.
Zach lets you know in this week's edition of Overreaction or Proper Reaction.
So I put out my playoff bracket. First response, I really don't understand how OSU at 5 and everybody puts them at 5. I do not believe a 2-loss OSU team gets put at 5. It doesn't matter who they lost to. They only have one loss right now, Ohio State. Some people I just don't get, if I'm going to be honest. But anyway, Stu, what do you got for me?
So Tua played in just his third game since returning from that devastating concussion last night. And it seems like the Dolphins quarterback hasn't learned his lesson. After throwing an interception, Tua attempted to make a tackle by lowering his head and getting kicked in the helmet. But after the game, he was all smiles.
Interception even when they put a tackle. How do you feel? Yeah, I feel good. Everything's good. I went up to that dude that intercepted me and asked him, like, bro, you couldn't just ran out of bounds or cut back. It was like, you seen me and I seen you. Like, you wanted to just run me over. He told me after the game he's like, there's no room there. There was nowhere else to go. No, I wasn't planning on using my head to go hit him. So
down there, but I guess his leg kind of did kick the side of your head. You never felt any ill effects from it?
Nah, I didn't feel any of that. That was pretty bad tackling for him, though. That was pretty terrible.
Yikes. Overreaction or proper reaction? You're okay with Tua trying to make that tackle?
I was going to say I'm okay with it because it's football. Hey, you got to do what you got to do. I have not heard that audio until right now. That's Tua knows he shouldn't have done that. That's just cringeworthy, that audio. So you're okay with Tua trying to make that tackle? No. Definitely not. So that's an overreaction.
All right, he's doing it again, Zach. In his first season with the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh is 6-3 after taking over a team with just 5 wins last season. In his first season with the 49ers back in 2011, the team improved from 6 wins to 13, and his Michigan squad won 10 games after he inherited a 5-win team. So overreaction or proper reaction, Jim Harbaugh is the best coach at any level of football right now.
So is this basically saying, you could put Jim Harbaugh in college or the NFL, it doesn't matter, he's going to be good? So for example, if I wanted to say Andy Reid, if I put Andy Reid in college, do I think Andy Reid would have this great success in college? Is that what this is basically saying?
Yes.
Well, we saw Harbaugh win a national championship in college, and in the NFL before we seen him get to a Super Bowl. So yeah, I would think so. I think that's a proper reaction. College is more work than it is the NFL these days. So even though he still has a ways to go in the NFL, I would say if you put Harbaugh, college pros, any other guy in college that's in the pros or college to the pros, vice versa, I don't know what they would do. So yeah, I would say that's a proper reaction.
Browns offensive tackle.
Who's got it better than us?
Nobody. Browns offensive tackle Cedric Wills was the 10th pick in 2020 and had started every game in which he'd played in his career so far. However, after hurting his knee, Wills chose to sit out their game against the Ravens 2 weeks ago, and his replacement did so well that Wills was taken out of the starting lineup last week. Yesterday, Wills admitting that sitting out was his choice.
I decided myself that I made a business decision not to play after the Bengals game, going into that Ravens game, because I was injured. And then the next week is when I received the news. So,
All right, so overreaction or proper reaction. Wills should come off the bench the rest of the year as a punishment for making, quote, a business decision.
Molly Pip Wills, they're going to start calling him. I would go overreaction. I don't think you have to go out of your way to start him again. But if it does not work, I would throw him out there because it seems like it's actually a punishment to make him play rather than to give him what he wants and just kind of tap out on what's been a dreadful waste of a season for the Cleveland Browns.
There's a tight race in the AFC for the last playoff spot, with the Broncos holding the 7th and last seed at 5-5. The 4-6 Bengals and Colts are a game back apiece, while the 3-6 Dolphins are right behind them. Overreaction or proper reaction, a team with a 500 or below record will make the playoffs in the AFC.
Well, it's going to be tough to be 500 because you have to be 8-1, right? So below, am I going to see an 8-9 team out of the AFC in the playoffs? I think you're going to be 9-8. I think the 7th wild card spot's going to be 9-8. So overreaction, proper reaction. A team with the 500 below record will make the playoffs in the AFC. I will go overreaction. Last one.
All right, the NFL has played a number of international games this year, and Roger Goodell says that they're aiming for 8 games next year. A new report says the league is hoping to hold its first game in Australia, either in Sydney or Melbourne in 2026. Now, the shortest flight to either city is out of Los Angeles and takes 15 hours long, nearly double the flight time from Charlotte to Germany, where the Panthers played this weekend. Overreaction or proper reaction? Australia is too far to play an NFL game.
Yeah, proper reaction. But they will do it because it's all about the money. They don't care. So I guess that's actually an overreaction. If you ask me, it's a proper reaction. If it's what the NFL is going to do, it's an the NFL might go play a game on Jupiter, for crying out loud. We're going to put the Panthers and the Giants on Jupiter and maybe hope they never come back, honestly, and start football over there. Jeez, that's crazy. All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. When we come on back, should the drama Dallas choking Cowboys trade Micah Parsons? And also, should Aaron Rodgers retire at the end of the season? We'll delve into both those topics when we're back in 5 minutes right here on the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. You could always follow us on social media, Twitter, Instagram. Make sure you do it right now in the 5-minute break. At Zach Gelb, that's ZACHGELB.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
To infinity and beyond.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show. Here's your host, Zach Gelb.
Alrighty, this is Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. I'm going to say something. I don't want it to come off like it's a shot, because it's not. I don't really know the guy that well, but I've had some interactions with him. I do like the guy that's behind the ML Football aggregating account. But there are some of these aggregating accounts that sometimes you see what the headline is, and you're like, do you really need to tweet this out? Like, does anyone really give a rat's ass about this? And you just do such low-hanging fruit because the more clicks you get, right, for an account like that, the more money that you get from Twitter in the new Twitter era under Mr. Musk. But this one I actually chuckled at. So, Stu, I guess I'm not up to date on these thoughts. I don't know if these rumors are actually out there, but it's enough where it was talked about on the Hawk Tua podcast. I guess the Hawk Tua girl does a podcast called Talk Tua. You know, is the 15 minutes of fame up on the Hawk Tua girl? You know, I enjoyed her during the Mets run. I enjoyed the initial video. But, like, how much of a loser do you have to be now to be tuning into the Talk Tua podcast? Because, like, I feel like the listener of the Talk Tua podcast, like, 85%, I guess, tune in because they think there's a chance that, oh, if they support her, maybe that she'll one day want to date one of the listeners. Like, I'm just being honest. I have not listened to the Talk Tua podcast. I have not been against the Hawk Tua girl. I'm all in favor for the Hawk Tua, baby. All righty? But I guess there were rumors, because this is the tweet that I just read moments before we came back on the air. Trending. Haley Hawk Tua Welsh says that she is not dating. Who do you think she's not dating? If you had to take a guess. Have you seen this, Stu? Are you up in the Hawk Tua?
I'm not up on any of this.
Okay. A quarterback in the NFL. She's not dating, but I guess there's rumors linking her to one of these quarterbacks in the NFL. It's a starting quarterback in the league. I'll give you 5 guesses. Give me a starting quarterback in the NFL. Like, you're not going to guess Mahomes because you know that he's married.
Justin Herbert.
It is not Justin Herbert. Good guess, though. Not Justin Herbert, though. Who else?
Go Will Levis.
Ooh. It is not Will Levis. I'll give you 3 more guesses. This person, you want a hint?
I'll take a hint.
This person has been in the news in the past because of something that happened to him where most people think you get that from being involved in some sort of romance.
Oh, Sam Darnold.
There we go. Right now, Sam Darnold has kind of restored his career a little bit. There's been a rejuvenation of Sam Darnold, but in the past, most people know Sam Darnold for 2 things in the NFL: seeing ghosts and getting mono. So Haley Hawk-Tua Welsh says that she is not dating Vikings quarterback Sam Darnold. And MLF Football says those rumors can now be put to bed via the Talk to a Pod. You know, if we could find that audio and locate that audio, whether it's today or tomorrow, I actually would like to hear Haley Hawk-Tua Welsh having to respond to the rumors that she's dating Sam Darnold. And I don't know, if you're Sam Darnold, can you really date the Hawk-Tua girl when she is known for spitting on that thing and you are known for getting mono? I feel like if you are actually dating the Hawk-Tua girl, which she claims he's not, I think that would be a bad look for Sam Darnold when you're known for mono. I don't think you want your relationship to be publicized. Now, you're a quarterback. There's just some things that you can't prevent from getting to the press. But out of all the quarterbacks in the league, if one quarterback cannot date the Hawk-Tua girl, I think it's Sam Darnold with the whole mono situation all those years ago. Things I was not expecting to talk about today on this show. A, the Hawk-Tua girl. B, that there was rumors that the Hawk-Tua girl was dating NFL quarterback. And then C, that the rumors were not true. So I'm very curious about that podcast.
I also learned her name today. I did not know that was her full name.
Oh, you didn't have any respect for the Hawk-Tua girl? You didn't know her name was Haley Welsh?
Apparently not.
And I think she's dating, remember, I think she called her mans that she talked about spinning that thing for was like Pookie or someone. I think she's actually dating that guy. I don't know if she's actually still dating that guy, but there was a time where she got a little more attention from, I think his name was Pookie, whatever she called him. That's once her going viral about talking about how Pookie, I'll love you forever, I'll spit on that thing, is when Pookie finally said, okay, I will start to date that girl. I don't know if that relationship's still going strong. I would appear maybe not. If there's rumors that Sam Darnold was dating her, but they're not true, how did those rumors even start? That's what I would love to know. I have a lot of questions. We need some investigative members. If anyone wants to tweet me and just let me know how those rumors did start and where they did form from, I would appreciate that. All righty. We go from one popular podcast host to the next. We go from the Hawk-Tua girl to Micah Parsons, who should stop Hawk-Tuaing to like the whole world with what he says. And this was not in his podcast. It was just talking to the media. But these were the initial comments by Micah Parsons about his head football coach, Mike McCarthy, and also Zach Martin.
You know, that's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But, you know, all coaching aside, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But the guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year on their way out, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
So, Stu, I'll play you Micah Parsons' response to his own podcast, to his own comments, because, of course, he had to talk about this on his podcast because that did go viral. And, right, like, that's pretty simple. He may not have intended it to be that big of a shot at Mike McCarthy, but when you're basically like, I don't give a rat's ass about what's going to happen to Mike. I really feel bad for my teammate, Zach Martin, who may be on the last hole of his career. I don't know if you saw this, Stu, but I saw it. People were like, oh, you got to hear the whole thing. You got to hear the question, and you got to hear the whole thing in context. I don't know if you saw that. I listened to the full question, the full audio, It was put out there like, oh, someone tweeted out, you may as well listen to the whole thing. I heard the whole thing. I don't have a different opinion on this whatsoever. And, like, that's the part to me. Sometimes you get taken out of context. Like, I've been taken out of context before. Like, I made a joke. I talked about this a few weeks ago about John O'Korn maybe coming back and playing for Michigan. And one of these dopey writers that saw I tweeted that was like, even NFL and college football analyst Zach Gelb thinks John O'Korn could be next up on the Michigan depth chart. He hasn't played there for years. It was a joke. So sometimes you make a joke or you say something and it gets taken out of context with all these dopes that just try to profit off things that you say. But in this case, Micah Parsons is not in the right. We had Clay Matthews on, right? A guy that's been in Micah Parsons' shoes, and he was basically, he said it in a nice way, that Micah needs to learn how to not make things a distraction and keep those things in-house, even if he's thinking them. Micah Parsons was in the wrong. But what Micah Parsons does is he says inflammatory things, right? And then he basically plays the victim card. So I have not heard this yet, but I'm assuming he's basically going to downplay the comments here. But this is the edge with Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons on his comments that he made about Mike McCarthy. You know, it's never a good thing when you say something and you have to go on your podcast and comment on something that you said after a game. But here's Micah Parsons.
I never once threw or even intended to throw Mike McCarthy under the bus. Like I said, he's one of the most winningest coach. He is a Super Bowl champ. I never once brung up his past. And the question that was asked was about here in the Dallas Cowboys, did I see Mike McCarthy in our future? And I said, that's above my pay grade.
Okay.
So never once did I ever intended or wanted to reflect on Mike McCarthy's career because I always knew it was a good one. I've always had a great relationship with Mike McCarthy.
So, Stu, do me a favor. After hearing that, you play back the response, and the question was about, do you see Mike McCarthy being here for the future, and what about the future of Mike McCarthy, whatever it was. This was the response.
You know, that's above my pay grade about if Mike is coaching again next year. But, you know, all coaching aside, coaching, you know, Mike can leave and go wherever he wants. But the guys, I kind of feel bad for guys like Zach Martin and guys who might be on their last year or on their way out, you know, because that's who I wanted to hold the trophy for. You know, you want to win games and do great things with those type of legends who put in more time and work than Mike McCarthy ever did. So those are the kind of guys that I have so much sympathy and hurt for.
Stu, can I just ask you something? Let's just pretend your contract or your job status was up at the end of the year. And let's say someone came to me and they said, you know, what about the future of Stu Kovacs? And I said, I don't give a bleep about the future of Stu Kovacs. You know, I feel really bad for a guy like Mike Samter, who's been here for a long time, and he could be on like the last few months of his career as we're trying to put together a championship product. How would you feel? Just wondering, Stu.
I would not feel great. I would not like that very much.
Yeah, you would feel like I don't give a crap about you. So then to say I was never trying to diminish anything Mike McCarthy did, you know, teams should hire me. Teams should hire me just to give players PR advice. Because I know how to create the headline. I also know how to prevent the headline. All Micah Parsons had to say is this, whether he meant it or not, that is above my pay grade. I love Mike McCarthy as a football coach. In addition to that, though, I feel really bad for a guy like Zach Martin, who I don't know how many more years he has left. Period. Stop. No story. There is no story. Like maybe some weasel will say, oh, Micah Parsons failed to comment on the future of Mike McCarthy. But he started it off in the right way. That's above my pay grade. But when you're like, I don't give a crap what happens to Mike, how else am I supposed to interpret that? So let's go to Mike McCarthy. Now, I have to add a little context to this clip. We all saw what happened during the game where the Cowboys don't believe in blackout curtains, which they should. And the sun was kind of glaring through and shining through, and CeeDee Lamb couldn't see the ball, and then he dropped the football or couldn't catch the football. Well, to start Mike McCarthy's press conference yesterday, this is the reality show of the drama Dallas choking Cowboys. There was a glare. Light was shining through to the podium where Mike McCarthy was. So you go from that to then the first question being about what Micah Parsons said. Listen up.
For the sun? Any comment?
Not today. I just couldn't help myself. Yeah. Go ahead, David.
Do you take offense at what Micah Parsons said after the game?
Well, I think like anything with post-game remarks and really any remarks, when it does create questions for others in the locker room, something that I've always done. Conversation has to happen. So Mike and I had a conversation this morning about it, and handled those things as men should handle it. So that wasn't his intent, and so that's something he can talk on.
I really wonder how that conversation did go. Because Micah clearly has no respect for Mike McCarthy. And whether you're going to like what I'm going to say or not, it really doesn't matter if he has respect for Mike McCarthy or not, because we all know Mike McCarthy's not going to be there next year. So was that actually a conversation where Micah showed remorse? Or was it, yeah, coach, whatever you say, I messed up, even though in your mind you're thinking, bleep this guy. This guy's going to get fired anyway at the end of the year. He's not going to get renewed. But I will say this. Dak Prescott's now out for the year. Already committed to a long-term contract. CeeDee Lamb's already committed to a long-term contract. Micah Parsons has a year left on his contract, which is the fifth-year option for 2025. And then if they wanted to, they could franchise tag him in back-to-back seasons. But Micah's going to want a new deal this offseason. Should the Cowboys trade Micah Parsons, you would get back 2 first-round picks, and you would not have to trade the enormous contract. Micah Parsons is a really damn good player. I'm not going to say he's the greatest football player I've ever seen. When I say he's overrated, it's not like I'm saying he sucks. I do think he's a tad overrated where people were comparing him to Lawrence Taylor. He's a phenomenal player. He's not Lawrence Taylor. All right? So if you tell me he's Lawrence Taylor, then yes, I have the right to say he's a tad overrated. But with those first-round picks that you're going to get, are you going to find anyone that's like 85% or 90% of Micah Parsons? Probably not. So I think the Cowboys should pay Micah Parsons. But if they're going to make the right hire, like if they're hiring a Belichick or a Vrabel, I don't think Ben Johnson could do this. But if I'm Belichick and Vrabel, I'm sitting him down and saying, hey, if you're going to do the podcast, you're on a short leash. And if you embarrass us on that podcast, then we're not going to want you to do the podcast. But there's no way the Cowboys are actually going to do that because the Cowboys, led by Jerry Jones, enjoy making headlines more than actually winning football games. So have we procured the Hawk Tua Girl podcast where she was asked about, I guess these rumors that surfaced, I don't know where they surfaced or how they surfaced, that she is dating Sam Darnold. Let's listen up.
What was the redheaded guy everybody said I've been with? Sam Darnold?
I don't know who that is.
Let me tell you one thing about Sam Darnold. He's redheaded.
Mm-hmm.
Which, nothing against him, but me personally, I do not want a redheaded baby. I don't know what it is.
There was also a rumor going around that you were dating Zach Bryan.
Zach Bryan.
Ooh.
Okay.
It's a bad time for that rumor to come out.
It is a bad time for that rumor to come out.
Okay, so that's pretty obvious that she's not dating Sam Darnold. She was like, oh, that is beneath me to date Sam Darnold. Now, the Zach Bryan thing, you want to talk about fumbling the bag? This guy, Zach Bryan. Now, your traditional sports talk show host would not know much about this beef. But Zach Gelb is basically a reality TV whore, and I love all that drama. And I'm a big fan of Barstool. So Zach Bryan was dating Brianna Chicken Fry, who is a podcast host at Barstool. And they were dating, and Zach Bryan is basically a POS, all right? He was very emotionally abusive. So they broke up. Zach Bryan, I guess whatever he did was so bad and so just disgraceful that he reportedly offered her $12 million to never disclose anything that ever happened. She was going to take the money. The lawyers were trying to strong-arm Dave Portnoy. She does the podcast with Dave Portnoy and Josh Richards. And Dave Portnoy was like, bleep you. You can't censor me. If you keep on bleeping around with Brie, who's Brianna Chicken Fry, I have enough money. I'll just pair myself and torch you guys. Because, it's one thing to have Bree sign a DNA. You can't have Josh Richards and also Dave Portnoy sign that. Did I just say DNA? What is it called? Non-disclosure agreement. NDA. It's my stupid brain. I was like, DNA? What are we talking about? So she didn't take the money. Portnoy never had to sign anything. Josh Richards never had to sign anything. And on last Thursday night, when most people were watching Bengals and Ravens, I had it on one of my TVs, but the other TV, the big screen, was the BFF's podcast, where she was just telling, not everything, but a lot of what did transpire. And yeah, Zach Bryan, who's like the thing in country music, is now getting slammed every day by Dave Portnoy, who is writing these diss tracks, which are actually very catchy. The latest one was called Country Ditty and was attacking Zach Bryan. Now, he'll still have a very successful career because he's a famous country music singer, and a lot of people will still like him. They'll be like Bleep Barstool. But the Barstool fan is as passionate of a fan as there is. It's like the Stern fan back in the day. And anytime this guy goes on social media, there will be comments from the Barstool, the Stoolies, as we should say. So, yeah, not a good time to be Zach Bryan. So, Haley Welsh, the hot Tua girl, was rumored to be dating Zach Bryan. Well, you should pass on that one if he slides into your DMs. And also rumored to be dating Sam Darnold. Both have some red hair in them. So she's not interested. So if you are a consumer of the Hawk Tua podcast, the Talk Tua, and you are a redhead, she's just not interested. Talk about alienating your audience, Haley. I don't think she should have said that. Who was stupid? Who was dumber in their comments? Micah Parsons or Haley Welsh? 855-212-4227. Sound off. You know what? We want your huge opinions. Remember that guy, Bill Simonson, that legend, who used to do those shows every Saturday night? We want your huge opinion. That's something he would do. All right, let me tell you, coming up 30 minutes from now, another award-winning update on The Huge Show. We want your huge opinions. Who would you rather date? Zach Bryan or Sam Darnold? 855-212-4227. Who acted like a bigger jackass this week? Haley Welsh, or was it obviously Micah Parsons? This is The Huge Show with Bill Simonson. We want your huge opinions. Marco Belletti coming up in 32 minutes from now with another award-winning update. All righty. We'll take a timeout. It is the Zach Gelb Show. We'll take your huge opinions if you want them. 855-212-4227. But first, let me tell you about my friends at Sleeper. Football season is in full swing. Take full advantage by winning some cash with Sleeper Picks. Sleeper Picks is a fantasy game, but you can win real money. Just pick more or less and at least 2 of your favorite player stats. If you're right, you could win. You can pick up to 8 players to win up to 100 times your money. Right now, Sleeper has a special offer. New users will have their first deposit matched up to $1,500. Wow. So if you deposit $1,500, they'll give you an extra $1,500 in credit if you've already played. Sleeper's got discounts to player projections every week of the season. Check in and see what they have this week. Download the Sleeper app now and use promo code SCORE, and your first deposit will be matched 100% up to $1,500 in credit. What are you waiting for? Download Sleeper today and unlock one of the fastest growing fantasy sports apps in the world. Use code SCORE for up to $1,500 credit match in your first deposit. That's code SCORE. Must be at least 18 years old in most states and in state where it's legal. Promo code, location, other restrictions apply. See terms for use for details at sleeper.com. Please play responsibly. Call 1-800-426-2537 for help. Sponsored by Sleeper, a Blitz product.
You're in a 4-minute break. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 3 minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network.
So we had 6 quarterbacks go in the first 12 picks of this past NFL draft. I don't think it's crazy to say that I'm only really concerned about one. I'm only really concerned about one. Jaden Daniels looks like he is going to be a star. I saw that Ron Jaworski, I guess he was on 94 WIP today in Philadelphia, an Odyssey station, and he was saying he's never seen a rookie quarterback like Jaden Daniels. So Jaden Daniels is on his way. There's nothing that has happened so far, whether you agree with that statement or not, that makes you think that Jaden Daniels can't be the guy. Drake May. Stu, I know I teased this a few weeks ago, or not even a few weeks ago. I think it was last week. I am going to the Patriot Colt game. I was inspired so much by what I've seen so far from Drake May. I have procured tickets Thanksgiving weekend. I'm not going to do Sunday morning football, only that Sunday. Saturday evening, I'm going to make the drive up to Foxborough. I'm going to go to the game Sunday, big tailgate with some of my friends that I tailgate with at One Patriot Place. So I'm going to the game because I'm excited about the youngster. The receivers suck. The line sucks. Elliott Wolf, you got to earn your money this offseason. But I like what I'm seeing out of Drake May because he's doing more with less. But I have to ask you something. You have had a lot of players that were supposed to be the guy for your organization. Are you a big jersey guy, just wondering?
Big enough, but yes, the football jerseys. I have a graveyard of Raiders jerseys.
Who are your Raiders jerseys that you've owned before?
Let's see. Jamarcus Russell is one. Michael Huff is another. Darius Hayward Bay is another one. Randy Moss as well. Rolando McClain. I can go on. Yeah,
you had a Ronaldo.
I did. I thought he was going to be great. Linebacker. He was great at Alabama. I thought he was going to be the real deal, and just another one that just is not good.
Patriot jerseys that I've owned. I have an Andre Tippett jersey. I had a Rodney Harrison jersey. Obviously, Tom Brady, Teddy Bruschi, Randy Moss, Willie McGinnis. I'm sure I'm forgetting some. Oh, I have a Matthew Slater jersey. That's pretty badass. EJ had to wear that once when he lost a bet on one of the 9,000 bets that Maggie and Perloff make, and he asked me if he had a Patriot jersey. I think that was the one that Maggie tried to weasel her way out of. Like, she lost, but the spread didn't hit, so they all Spike. That was a decision Spike made that I just don't get to this day. Like, Maggie lost the bet, and then Perloff and EJ had to end up dressing up. But anyway, I've had a lot of jerseys, especially with the Patriots. Is it too early to get the Drake May jersey? Because I like what I'm seeing out of him. Here is what I fear, two things. One, I don't even get to see him play at the end of November because he gets injured, right? He's already had a concussion and had to miss half of a game. The other thing is, if I get his jersey, is that the start of him just being terrible? Because my football jerseys, with the run that I've had, I've never really bought a football jersey where the player was terrible. In baseball, oh man, I have a list. I could probably, when teams lose and they send the shirts to like a third world country? My baseball jerseys, Jason Bay with the Mets, Kaz Matsui with the Mets. I have some rancid Mets jerseys. So I'm asking, is it too early? Because I was looking at it online today. I'm buying a Drake May jersey, just wondering.
If it was me in my track record, I would say it's too early, don't do it.
Okay.
Because your track record with your team is very good, I would say...
Different era, though.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're fine.
Okay.
Maybe wait to the end of the season, but I don't think it's crazy to start thinking that.
Here's the other thing. I'm not a big fan. I order a lot of stuff online, but I hate ordering things online because if you get something, and with how much weight I've lost, like, I have no clue what size I am in anything right now. So I hate ordering something and then having to send it back and get the replacement. So maybe I just wait till I go to the game and then I go to the pro shop. And even though this is present day, I'm kind of in the mood to get the red Patriot jerseys with Drake May, which I did see they sell them online, so I'm assuming they sell them in the pro shop. So I guess I'm going to wait till I go to the game, and then when I'm tailgating, maybe I'll make my way over to the pro shop. But getting back to what we were talking about, Jaden Daniels I feel really good about. Drake May I feel really good about. I know J.J. McCarthy's out for the season with the season-ending injury. He's going to be the guy next year. I know a lot of people go, Sam Darnold's playing himself into the job. The Vikings are starting to come back down to earth. I still believe they'll make the playoffs, but you take a quarterback 10th overall, unless if you're confident that Sam Darnold's definitely going to be your guy moving forward, which I don't think the Vikings are, I do think they'll go to J.J. McCarthy. Now, that's not me saying J.J. McCarthy is going to be great, but I haven't seen him play yet, so I can't totally dismiss him. Michael Penix Jr., I think Kirk will be back for another year. It wouldn't surprise me if Kirk at the end of the year says, I want to get traded. There's 4 years on that contract. He's going to sit this year, barring an injury to Kirk. I think maybe one more sit after that, and then we'll eventually see Michael Penix Jr. on the field. And you know what? I was not a fan of this pick, 12th overall, but Bo Nix has, you watched him this week, Stu. He doesn't blow you away. It doesn't make you think he's going to be great, but he's serviceable with a solid coach and not a ton around him, but he's been serviceable. So I can't say that Bo Nix is definitely going to be a bust, right? What were your evaluations of watching Bo go up against your Raiders?
Yeah, well, that was the Chiefs this week.
Yeah, you're right.
But I did watch a lot of that game, kind of trying to root for the Chiefs to finally lose the game. But yeah, he's been a lot more impressive than I thought he was. I thought of the 6 guys drafted, that was like the one guy that I was like stay far, far away from in terms of being like a top-end first-round pick, but he's really impressed me. He's been really good.
Has been. When do they play? the Broncos. Oh, they played the Raiders a few weeks ago, right?
They played the Raiders pretty early on. I think it was week 3 or 4.
They beat you guys, right?
They did.
Going away.
Yes, that was the 99-yard pick six game, and then what's his name Minshew got benched. Yeah. And then
times.
They scored like 20 unanswered points.
Yeah.
Great times.
Let me see. I'll pull up the schedule here.
It's late in the season, I believe. I'm pretty sure it's towards the end.
No, you guys play them in 2 weeks.
Oh, okay.
November 24th. So when I'm at Foxborough cheering on Drake May, I think that's the same week. Oh, no, it's the weekend afterwards. So it's coming up not this weekend, but next weekend. You end up playing the Broncos play the Raiders, and that is at Las Vegas. But, yeah, Bo Nix has been fine. And, Mahomes had a lot of respect for him after the game. So I think Mahomes was impressed by him in that 16-14 loss. But the one quarterback that it's like I'm looking at right now, and I'm just saying this could already be over, is Caleb Williams. Now, it's not because I think he stinks. But the Bears organization is such a trash organization that I really do fear that they're going to mess him up. Like, think about what we're talking about right now. I know it's been really ugly, Stu, in the last 3 weeks. They're 4-5, though. I know they've lost 3 in a row. But they just fired the offensive coordinator. The head coach is an embarrassment. And then the locker room, according to reports from ESPN Chicago, there are veteran players going to Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus saying they need to play Tyson Bagent. Think about that bleep show that's going on in Chicago, where even if you get rid of Matt Eberflus at the end of the year, which they should, and you bring in the right coach, and I think either Belichick, Vrabel, or Ben Johnson need to be the next head coach of the Bears. Even if you bring in one of those guys, that coach has to come in and they have to figure out which players are already sick and tired of the quarterback, because some of those players preferred that Justin Fields was still there. So this is a mess. This is an absolute mess. And you just got to pray, if you're a Bears fan, that the right coach wants this job because they believe in Caleb Williams. They'll come in, they'll be the authoritative voice, and they'll just get rid of the guys like probably DJ Moore, who I thought was a really good dude and like a really good teammate that wants nothing to do probably with Caleb Williams. But that's the guy I fear for the most. Like Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy and Michael Penix Jr., right? Bo was the one I was most critical of. He's proven enough where I'm not saying he's great, but he's serviceable. We got to eventually see McCarthy and Penix play with what Drake May and Jaden Daniels has showed before. They make you feel really good about them. But Caleb Williams, it's like even with the talent that he has, and some of it's on him, but even with the talent that he has, can he overcome just the mess that are the Chicago Bears still? And with history the way that it shows, it would suggest that he's not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm very concerned. I don't think it's going to happen. And it's crazy that we're saying it after, like you said, like 5 or 6 weeks where we're like, okay, he's starting to look like he's turning the corner. He's going to be the real deal. And now it just looks like the total opposite again.
All right, it is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. We'll come on back. We'll update you some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio. We will get to a news brief next. Update time first. Here's Zach.
Infinity Sports Network. Sports Flash.
Well, the 3-6 Cowboys will not have Dak Prescott for the remainder of the season. The Cowboys quarterback will undergo surgery on his injured hamstring, and recovery time is at 3 months. Cooper Rush will be the starter the rest of the way. The Bears have fired offensive coordinator Shane Waldron. Passing game coordinator Thomas Brown will be promoted. The Bears have scored just 27 points in the last 3 games, and Waldron, the 8th member of Matt Eberflus's staff to be fired in the last 14 months. There was Magic and Kareem, Bird and McHale, and Jordan and Pippen. The Splash Brothers were the NBA's most recent dynamic duo, combining for 4 championships. However, their time came to an end this summer when Thompson left for Dallas. Tonight, the Mavericks pay a visit to the Bay Area with the 5-time All-Star facing his former mates for the first time, and Steph Curry said it will be an emotional night.
We obviously have a game to play, so you want to make sure you're locked in mentally on that, but he deserves the celebration and the welcome that he's going to get. And then, like I talked about before, it would be a great opportunity to reflect on all the memories that we had.
Top-ranked Kansas, coming off a win over North Carolina, will face Michigan State in the first part of the State Farm Classic doubleheader in Atlanta. The second part of the showcase features number 6 Duke and 19th-ranked Kentucky. I'm Rich Acker.
The Infinity Sports Network is on your smart speaker. All you have to say is, play Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Howie. And this is Nick. We're from the Backstreet Boys. And you're listening to the Zach Gelb Show. And guess what? Zach is back. All right.
He's live. He's nationwide. This is the Zach Gelb Show.
Oh, my God.
All righty, this is the Zach Gelb Show on the Infinity Sports Network. So let me answer this before I get to a news brief, because I saw that this is up in the YouTube chat. Which franchise ruins quarterbacks best? Jets, Bears, Browns, or Raiders? Whew. That's a great question. I'm stunned. So I'll take the Jets out of it. Like, that's how worse off the other three franchises are, where you actually take the Jets out of it. Because even though Mark Sanchez didn't live up to the hype, at least he got the 2 AFC championship games. And you got Joe Willie Namath back in the day, if you really want to go that far back. Stu, what's your answer on this? Right? Isn't it really between the Bears, Browns, and Raiders, in your opinion?
I think so. I would say it's hard with the Raiders because they did have Carr for a good number of years, and he was at least serviceable.
Average.
Yeah. Not like amazing, but like not a total disaster.
You had Gannon, who won an MVP. So I would say that it's not the Raiders.
I think it's the Bears.
Because they've never had a franchise quarterback. Like, at least the Browns, it didn't work great with Baker Mayfield, but at least he got to the playoffs one year.
And they've drafted 3 quarterbacks high in the last 5-6 years, whatever it's been, between Fields, Trubisky, and now Caleb Williams. Like, they've drafted some quarterbacks pretty high.
The only reason, though, why I still may have to say the Browns, remember that jersey that we saw with like 25 quarterbacks' names? And they're
a lot of guys on there.
Like,
Couch, Manziel, it goes on.
It's rough. So I'll begrudgingly say it's the Bears. 38% the Bears, 33% the Jets, 25% the Browns. Hey, Stu, here's your best football victory of the season. 4% for the Raiders.
It's the only one I'll get.
All righty, let's close up shop with a news brief. We'll update you with some of the biggest stories in the world of sports with some audio right now.
Time for your daily news brief. We get you caught up on the rumors, reports, and reconnaissance from the day in sports.
Okay, we played you enough of this Micah Parsons audio. Let's go to Jerry Jones on Micah Parsons' comments about Mike McCarthy. This is on Sean and RJ on 105.3 The Fan.
It was not meant, no matter how it sounded, it was not meant as a critique of the coaches or the coach. It was meant as a concern for the veteran players, such as Zach Martin, that might not have that much more in their career left.
Okay. You could still say that, and without basically saying, I don't give an F about the coach. It's what he said. He said, I don't care about what happens to Mike. That's above my pay grade. All he had to say was simply, that's above my pay grade. I love my time with Mike McCarthy. I hope it continues. But being a player, I feel really bad for the players that only have a limited time left in the league. Period. Stop. This isn't even an issue. But, of course, Jerry's going to defend Micah Parsons. Jerry Jones, why continue to start Cooper Rush over Trey Lance in the absence of Dak Prescott?
Cooper has shown that he has the capability to compete and win in games. And he does give us our best chance. Frankly, that was really an out-of-character game for him.
But no one thinks Cooper Rush is going to be a star quarterback. There's still a little intrigue on Trey Lance. So wouldn't you just, even if Dak's your guy, wouldn't you just play Trey Lance still to try to stir up a market for him for teams? Like, that's what I would do.
That's reasonable, yeah. Or at least see what you got. It may be, I don't know.
It's not about winning games anymore.
It can't be.
Your team sucks, Jerry. You don't even care about winning games anymore. All right, let's hear Jerry Jones on Dak Prescott's injury and him being out for the 2024 season. Sean and RJ.
We had a good visit last night, and he wants to do that there, and he's got great medical doctors up there. It's a more common injury in hockey, and he's got doctors that are very familiar with how to repair that, and his prognosis is wonderful. It just means that we're not going to have him the rest of the year.
Okay. Dak may want to play for the Dallas Stars instead of the Dallas Cowboys when he comes on back. One more from Jerry Jones. Let's get into the sun issue. What do you got to say, Jerry?
That stadium was built to feel like it's outdoors when you're indoors. And it was built to have sunlight coming in every way that you could put it out there as though it were open air. Every venue has certain things that at certain ways and times in the contest can create an advantage. That really goes on the category of home field advantage. It should be an advantage to the home team. So I don't want to adjust it for one reason is because it is an advantage to us. Over the years, we played 52 games that have anything to do with the time of year when that sun could be there. We've won the majority of it. It has been an advantage for us to know where the sun is. I don't want to change that.
I'm not kidding. I know that's ratings galore, that segment. If I had to be Sean or RJ and sit through that segment every week, I think I would have to turn off my microphone and just scream, "Shut the F up!" every single time he speaks. I have no clue what he's trying to say. What advantage has it been for you? You guys never show up at home anyway in the playoffs. Well, not a sunny day those times. So this is how bad the Cowboys are. They're hoping they could blind players on the other team through this advantage. It just went against you. All righty. I've reached my Jerry Jones quota for the day. Here's Brian Daboll. We go from one incompetent person to the next. Hey, Coach Daboll, have you considered benching Daniel Jones?
What we'll do is we'll go back, we'll evaluate the tape, and we'll make the decision that we think is best for our team. Joe and I communicate with our ownership group on a daily basis, not just about the quarterback, but about every position. So there's good communication there. We'll do what we normally do. If there are any changes, regardless of the position, we'll always communicate.
The only reason the Giants would continue playing Daniel Jones if they think it's in the best interest for them losing games because they're intentionally trying to lose. He stinks. How much more tape do you need to see to watch back knowing that Daniel Jones is just not that dude? Here is Mike Tomlin. This was maybe my favorite cut of the week, and it's only Tuesday. Listen up. This is Mike Tomlin going up against one of his former players, Deontay Johnson, who's with the Steelers, then was with the Panthers, now is going to be with the Ravens. Steelers and Ravens coming up in a few days.
To be honest with you, I hadn't thought a lot about it. He's not on a lot of their video, and so, at this stage of the week, I don't know that I've weighed, what he might mean to the matchup. They got more significant pieces with larger roles that are occupying my attention at this part of the week.
That would be like when I went to Bob's Bar over the weekend, and D.A. Wright, who's left the company, if someone asked him, like, hey, what is it going to be like to see Sean Marash again? And if D.A. was just like, hey, I'm going to be honest, I haven't thought a second about it. I have a lot of bigger things that are on my mind than seeing Sean Marash. Ooh, that's gonna annoy Deontay Johnson. Don't the Ravens have to get Deontay Johnson a touchdown? I'm making one bet. Deontay Johnson anytime touchdown. Let's get Kyle Shanahan's thoughts on the sideline incident between Deebo Samuel and Jake Moody.
I mean, I didn't initially. After the game and stuff, I didn't think it was too big of a deal. But, after getting home and seeing it all on SportsCenter and everything and all that stuff, I wanted to make sure I did and talk to the guys about it, talk to a number of guys on the team, and we squashed it and we're good.
All right, so we're moving on, even though Deebo's a jerk. Finally, Fran Brown. Listen what he does when Syracuse doesn't win, the head football coach at Syracuse.
Honestly, I got like a ritual. Like when we lose, I ain't even getting a shower till early this morning. I just be mad. I just brush my teeth. But it's like I don't deserve soap. I don't deserve to do all that. I'm just focused on like trying to get back and trying to make sure that our players mentally understand and know that I let them down, that they didn't do it. Only thing is like my wife, I can't sleep in the bed if we lose because I ain't gonna get in the shower for that day. I'm just mad and I just sit there. I just brush my teeth. That's what I have to do so y'all won't say my breath stink. But I'm just kind of locked in on certain things, certain ways. I think you gotta earn the right to do certain things. So, winners get washed. You know what I'm saying? I'm a loser. I just kind of waited a little bit.
I know, Fran. So I love that Fran said that. But, dude, you could shower if you lose. It's not like your team's not going to try hard or things aren't going to go the right way if you end up taking a shower. That's just a stupid thing that coaches, like the coach, I slept at the facility last night. Go home. All right. You could shower after a loss. You don't need to atone for your sins. All right. and prevent yourself from showering until you win. Thankfully, Syracuse is decent this year. Imagine if they just lost every game. Fran would be stinky. All righty. We will talk to you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. Big thanks to Clay Matthews. Big thanks to each and every one of you. We'll talk mañana. We out. Bye-bye. Peace. Stinky University.
You're in a 5-minute break.